Hey everybody, it's your boy Marcus Norman from Gentleman Style Podcast, your host of the number one podcast coming to you live in America. And today you all are in for a very, very special treat. We have the incredible, amazing, well, it's a secret, but not too big of a secret. This is going to be a dynamic episode, and you all are in for an absolute treat. I was able to get on this gentleman's calendar, and I am absolutely amazed at what him and his company are doing for businesses, and particular businesses, but a unique and dynamic company nonetheless. And so we are going to just dive right into it. And so stay tuned for this very impactful episode. You won't want to miss a beat. Here we go. Hey everybody, it's your boy Marcus Norman from Gentleman Style Podcast, your host of the number one podcast coming to you live in America. And today we have Mr. Jonathan Cogley. He is a serial entrepreneur with several successful ventures, including his most recent venture and sale of his cybersecurity company, Thycotic. His background is in computer science and programming. Mr. Jonathan has spoken at over 100 enterprise technology events, appeared on the Wall Street Journal Radio, Fox TV, and has been featured in notable publications such as the Washington Post, CNET, Yahoo Finance, and PC Magazine. Mr. Jonathan currently mentors startups on how to build their business and achieve success using lessons learned building his company. He also provides angel investment and sits on various advisory boards. So without further ado, help me welcome to the stage, Mr. Jonathan Cogley. Yay!
Thanks, Marcus. Nice to be here.
Thank you. Nice to have you on the Gentleman Style Podcast show, Mr. Jonathan Sir. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to join me and my audience and to give back in this way.
Thank
Sir,
you.
What you are doing is incredible. And when I heard you on someone else's podcast, I believe it was on a real estate podcast, probably not real estate, but I listen to a lot of podcasts. And you were phenomenal on that show, sir.
Oh, thank you.
I have to ask though, my audience have been asking me, and I wanted to break you, the expert, to break this down. But what is SaaS?
Oh, sure. So SaaS, we throw the term around all the time. So software as a service. It's typically just a type of delivery of a company. So you're making a product. Your product happens to be software, and you deliver it in a way that people pay a subscription. So they're buying the service rather than buying the product. So maybe years back where we would buy like TurboTax and you buy a new version every year and you pay like $100. Now instead, you always have the latest version. It's online. And you pay a monthly fee of like $20 or something like that. So
SaaS is anything that's online and not necessarily an app or something that you download on a CD-ROM.
Right. Just like a more evolved delivery system. And then the real advantage for the businesses, so thinking about it as an entrepreneur, is instead of getting that sale once with like TurboTax, 2014, and then you have to hope that the customer buys it the next year and you have to make a new version. From an entrepreneur startup's perspective, you're going to make that subscription amount every single month.
So SaaS sounds like a better way to do business. And so what is the story behind your company, LogicBoost, right? What inspired you to start this company? You could do anything. You're absolutely incredible. And anything you set your mind to, your resume is extensive. But what's your story behind starting the company LogicBoost?
So my background was in a cybersecurity startup. And so I kind of went down that path for, a number of years, almost 15 years. It's been a long ride. But so I was involved in that startup. And my new business, how do I phrase the transition? It took about 5 years to transition from my old business to my new business, LogicsBoost Labs. And it was a little bit of a figuring out what you want to do, navel gazing and introspection and really trying to figure out what made me tick. And I figured out that the thing that I enjoyed so much from my old startup was really the problem solving aspect and kind of the creative aspects of building something new, figuring out pricing models, business models, like how to solve a problem in the business world. And so my new business evolved from talking to startups. So after I had a majority exit out of my old company, I had some time on my hands. And so I started doing mentoring with a few different startup accelerators. And I got to speak to, no jokes, hundreds of startups. I would be chatting to founders all the time and understanding what their business was and what they were doing. And it was great because I got to sort of give back to the community, share my experiences, share my advice. But what also happens is you start to become an expert in startups because I'm just talking to them all the time, right? I'm talking to hundreds of startups. How many people do that? Not many people do. And so I became an expert in kind of what troubles they go through and things that they should be thinking about, what's working in another startup and how can you apply that in yours. And so my mentoring inevitably led to angel investment, where, well, the startup is doing great and they're taking my advice, but they really need a bit of money. So maybe I can put some money in this business and help them grow better. And then what I discovered was giving them some advice and giving them money isn't necessarily everything that some startups need. They really need access to the right talent. And so my new company, LogicsBoost Labs, I launched in November of 2019. And the concept is, let's provide investment, so funding. Let's provide mentoring and expertise, but then let's also provide experts that are able to grow that business. And so I have a small team of experts, and I have technology, sales, marketing, customer success, all the key parts that you need for a SaaS business, because you want to be able to reach that customer, win over the customer to start using your subscription, have the right technology to support them, and then also have the customer success component so that you keep them. Because if you lose that customer, right, if your retention is not good, then you've defeated the whole point of a subscription. You want to be able to keep them happy so they keep paying their subscription every month. So trying to bring all the key parts that a startup needs in order to be successful in SaaS.
Absolutely. So that makes sense. So technology, sales, finance, capital, and what, in your experience, what is the most predominant one? Which one do you see most businesses need? I'm guessing sales, right? Because sales brings in the money, it brings in the revenue. I need sales to keep the lights on and keep the doors open. But in your experience, what is it that most businesses need?
I would agree with you. It's definitely sales. I mean, it sounds like really cold-hearted, like all that matters is dollars. But if you think about it, in a startup, our validation of our idea, the problem we're solving, our whole business is validated when the customer says, yes, I agree. Here is my money. Take my money, right? So if we're making money, if we're making sales, it's proving that we're building the right product, that we're solving a real need, and that we're competitive in the marketplace. So, and it's also the oxygen for your business, right? Your oxygen is cash. So you need that subscription revenue, which again is huge with SaaS. If you've got nice SaaS revenue, those are usually smaller dollar amounts, but they're very regular. And cash is king, as we say, or cash is oxygen, right? For your startup. If your startup runs out of cash, it runs out of oxygen.
And I can't keep the doors open. That makes absolute sense. And thank you for agreeing with me. I was just shooting in the dark. But you're right? I need the consistent cash and I need the money to come in so I can keep employees happy. I can keep payroll. I can keep the doors open, and I can innovate. Right? I can move on to other pieces of the business, like technology.
Yeah, it really will fund all the other parts of your business. If you're having trouble with retention, but your sales are good, you can use those dollars to hire customer success folks to make sure your customers are getting what they need out of the product and increase your retention. Likewise with R&D, if you need to improve the product, if you have the sales, you can start allocating those dollars towards hiring more R&D people. So it's really key. There's no point spending it all on R&D if you don't have any sales, right?
It's true. That's true. And so I got two questions for you that came out of that. And so one, LogicBoost helps with a number of different things, but who is LogicBoost best suited for to partner with? And then two, or what type of business are suited for partnering with LogicBoost? And then two, can you help me with hiring? Right, I need a CFO, or I need a CPA. Can LogicBoost help me with that?
Good question. So the typical target for us is, again, is just based on the expertise we have and the experience. So we focus on B2B startups. So companies that are making software for other businesses. I don't usually focus on consumer-based software. It's just not in my wheelhouse. It's not something I have experience in. I've tried. I've tried a few things with consumer, and it's hard. So personally, I prefer B2B, which is kind of a whole different discussion, but it's an easier value proposition when you have a business buyer, like a corporate buyer, and what they're looking to achieve with software. Then we also look at SaaS businesses. So again, with my technical background and the team that I've built, we focus mostly on software because that's kind of the type of business that we know how to scale and where we see success. So that's the typical fit for us. In terms of life cycle, we're usually finding startups come to us who are either pre-revenue, so they haven't actually made any sales yet, or they're early revenue. So maybe they've got 2 or 3 beta customers, or maybe they made 3 or 4 real customer sales, but it's still early days. They're figuring out, how to make the business work. And then we're usually able to help them. Our goal is to take them from that pre-revenue or early revenue, put all the pieces in place to help them define their pricing, their sales process, plan out how a sales team would look. What would the growth plan be for maybe the first 2 years of that startup's life? And try to take them from $0 all the way up to $1 million annually recurring revenue. So 1 million ARR.
I'll take it. Go ahead.
In terms of hiring, so to the second part of your question, so we're a pretty small team and we only focus on a couple of key aspects for a SaaS business. So for example, we have a CPA that we use to run our business, but we don't provide CPA services to our startups. But we're certainly able to advise them on like what they need or how to think about that, because we've just got decades of experience running businesses in general. So we can help you vet people like that. In terms of core discipline, though, we have a CTO on staff who is, just a technology expert. So he's able to dive in. He usually coaches the CTO in our startups. So when a startup comes into our program, they'll actually develop a relationship. His name's Chris Stazak. So Chris will develop a relationship with that CTO and kind of coach them. He's got a couple of decades experience. They usually have a year or 2 years experience. So it's a good fit, right? He can help them and teach them the ropes and what sort of things to consider and think about. And then we have that same equivalent for sales. So we have a VP of sales who, again, has over a decade's experience in B2B Saas sales. So really knows how to do the whole thing. And then with customer success, we have a VP of customer success who, again, has that level of experience. So we're able to help you and come in and put the pieces that you need to get your go-to-market strategy together. But we can also help you if you're hiring. So say you're hiring for a customer success, like a more junior person, our VP of customer success who's hired, tens of managers in that area over her career can help you put your job rec together, help you with interviewing, all those types of pieces.
You are a one-stop shop. I feel like you are able to take a business and take it to that $1 million threshold, and because of your years' experience, it's almost like you're a pocket mentor. You have all the pieces that a business typically struggles with: technology, incorporating the right technology and systems into my business, the hiring and placement, the sales. You are a one-stop. Where have you been all my life? Like,
oh, and my God. Another interesting aspect to it as well, and this was part of the thesis of LogicsBoost Labs, is if you're a startup, let's say you're a startup and you've already managed to get $500,000 in funding. Okay, so already you're in the upper cream, right? A lot of startups struggle to get any funding at all. But let's say you got $500,000 in funding, you've got a product together, you built the idea, maybe you got 1 or 2 beta customers, and you really need a VP of sales to come in and start building out your sales team, get your first 50 deals in the door and figure out all those pieces. So you're going to want a VP of sales that has maybe, say, at least 8 years of experience in the industry, who doing B2B SaaS sales. Okay, here's the problem. That person, if they're any good, they already have a job and they're already getting paid really well, and they're already working for a company that's doing $30 or $50 million a year in sales. So how are you going to hire that person? You've got your $500,000 in your bank account, but that's to run your whole business. you don't have a lot of stability to attract the right talent into your company, right? And so that's part of my thesis too, is that through the connections that I have, because I've hired so many people over the years, I know a lot of people in the industry, and they trust me because we work together. We have a good reputation in industry, and I'm able to bring them into LogicBoost Labs, which is a much more stable entity, right? We have adequate funding. We're going to be around. So I'm able to hire that VP of sales onto my team and then loan them out to you as part of our investment. So you actually get access to talent that you wouldn't be able to hire otherwise. These folks are too successful. They're not going to be available, and they're not going to risk it on a small startup.
Or afford. I wouldn't be able to afford that VP of sales
Right.
initially.
And the reason that they also come to me as part of our compensation package at LogicBoost Labs is we have a profit sharing program. So we actually share the profits of our startups. So when we have a startup that exits and has a liquidity event, our team actually participates in the success of that startup. So there's a big upside for those folks when they come to us, which again means we're able to attract really top talent.
Oh, you're speaking my language. Profit sharing. You're speaking my absolute language. You all are absolutely fabulous. We have to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. But stay tuned. We have the incredible Mr. Jonathan Cogley at LogicBoost Labs, and he is spilling some incredible tea to take your business to the next level. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I'm Marcus Norman, bringing fresh vibes to hot topics surrounding culture, relationships, business, finance, sex, dating, faith, and everything in between. Whether you're into passive income opportunities, trending topics, and useful relationship tips, or dynamic guest speakers, there's something for everyone. You can expect all that and more every week. If you're down with this content, then consider joining our growing community by subscribing to Gentleman Style Podcast and smash the bell to get on our VIP list. Your support means the world. Thanks for watching. Link to my channel.
Hey everybody, this is Marcus Norman from Gentleman Style Podcast, and we have the CEO, founder of LogicBoost Labs, Mr. Jonathan Cogley, and he just spilled some incredible tea. He is talking about his incredible company that helps startups, particularly business-to-business startups, SaaS startups. I got to spell it out because I have an audio audience as well. SaaS startups, which is SaaS, and he is taking businesses to the next level. He can incorporate technology, the right salespeople, the hiring, and putting people in position in your company to take it to the next level and get you to that $1 million sales point. And the thing that most businesses struggle with, which is sales and hiring. So this is absolutely phenomenal. This is absolutely incredible. Sir, tell us, what is I feel like you're out of reach for the average startup. You're out of reach. I won't be able to afford you, but I need you, right? People need what you're doing. How is it that people can afford you and become one and connect with LogicBoost to invite you in?
Oh, good question, Marcus. So we're not a consulting shop, so there are no billable fees or anything like that. Our business model is a little different. So the way that we work, we provide the investment and the services around that investment to help the startup be successful. And in exchange for that investment, we take a 20% stake in the startup.
That's not bad. That is not bad. That's not, I'm thinking Shark Tank. So Shark Tank, they're always going for the 52% ownership. So this is not a takeover. You're not taking over my company.
No, I've been the founder of a startup before. In fact, more than one, and it's a lot of work. So I'm quite happy for you to run your startup and we'll just be there to help you.
That's absolutely incredible. And you had some exciting news about, so y'all, he's being very humble. But his company that he sold, man, I would have never sold. His company that he just sold got purchased. And so tell us, it's been what, over $1 billion it was purchased for?
Yeah, so the news is pretty fresh, and they just put out an official announcement on the website. So my original company, my cybersecurity company that I founded, is called Thycotic. And so I ran that business from 2005 through 2015. And then I sold a majority stake to a private equity firm in New York City. So I was able to build the business to 10 million a year in revenue, about 45 to 50 employees. So that's kind of my sweet spot, taking something from zero up to, quite honestly, by 10 million, it was getting a little big for me. It's a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of HR. I kind of prefer smaller companies, but it was a great ride. I worked with some amazing people who really helped make it all happen. But the private equity firm, they took over in 2015. So I sold a majority stake to them, but I still had a stake in the business. So I still stayed on the board, attended board meetings, was able to still have input over the last 5 years. And they have just crushed it. They've done a phenomenal job. They took the company from 10 million a year in revenue to in 2020, I don't know the official number, but well over 100 million in revenue was done in 2020. So it just increased the business 10 times in the space of 5 years. Just absolutely phenomenal. And then the news that sort of just leaked out, but the company was just sold by that private equity firm. It's now going to be merged with another company called Centrify, and the deal size is over $1 billion.
So I brought that up, and that's incredible. So you all, when you're dealing with a seasoned expert, right? And so this is not a fly by night business. This is not something brand new. Mr. Jonathan and his team know what they're doing, and that's major, right? That's major. That's a big deal to be able to grow a business. That must have been hard. That would have been hard for me to let go my baby. You've had numerous companies, but I don't know. I would be very hard pressed to let go of my company. But anyway, I digress. That's major, y'all. You're dealing with a seasoned professional. So, sir, is SaaS something temporary to the economy and the COVID-19 recession that we're dealing with? Or is SaaS something that's here to stay that businesses need?
Well, I think if you think of it more as just a delivery model, so SaaS, it's a way of getting a solution to our problems, right? So we used to buy packaged software in the past. Even before that, maybe we'd write all our own software, right? If you went back 50 years, you would be building all your own software. You wouldn't be something, as a company, you couldn't just buy off the shelf stuff. So you can sort of see it as the progression. We used to build our own software, then other people would build it, and we'd buy it as packaged software. And there was different pricing strategies. We'd pay maintenance, maybe we'd get like upgrade protection. Remember those days? You'd buy upgrade protection on your product. And it's just evolved to the point now where instead of buying a product, we just buy whatever the latest version is. We always have the latest thing. If you think about Gmail, it's kind of weird, right? Because it's free, so we're the products. It's a little different, but still, you don't really think about versions with Gmail. You just go to the website and there's your Gmail. That's the latest up-to-date version of it. So why shouldn't it be the same for your tax software, for your logistics software, for anything that you're using in a business? Shouldn't you be able to just go to a website and the latest version is there? So SaaS is just really a delivery model and a pricing structure and a way of servicing and retaining a customer on a subscription. So most likely there'll be new variations and rethinking of that in the next 5 to 10 years. I'm sure there'll be new ideas and ways to progress it, but it's certainly not disappearing anytime soon. Just because there's so many benefits to it. Like we said earlier, you don't have to keep selling the customer on new versions. You just have that customer as a subscription. Also, what we're seeing is companies that are subscription-based tend to get higher valuations than kind of old school. So if you're a company that's maybe been around for 10 or 15 years and you're still selling, the 2016 version of your product, then you release a new version 2 years later and you sell the 2018, and you're selling those different versions like that, and all your revenue is based on an initial upfront cost of the product, and you have to resell the customer every couple of years and hope that they upgrade, the value of your business is going to be a lot less than a subscription company that's getting monthly subscriptions. Just because of those retention, the fact that your customer is not going away, you don't have to resell them. So your cost of keeping that customer is so much cheaper. And then all the positive cash flow that you have, right? That cash flow just running through your business. So it's a much more profitable way to run a business. And you're therefore rewarded if someone wants to buy your company with a higher valuation because you have that subscription model.
So that's, speaking of subscription, y'all. I want to point out something on the show today. We have a subscription model ourselves. If you notice down below, Miss Shanique Henry. Thank you, Miss Shanique, for being an incredible subscriber to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. So she is actually a subscriber. I wanted to give her a big shout out. Thank you for subscribing to the channel and being a sponsor of the show. And she says to you, congratulations, super amazing, Mr. Jonathan.
Awesome. Thank you, Shanique.
Thank you. So that's major, and that makes sense. I've noticed that a lot of businesses have been transitioning to the subscription-based model. Whereas before, it's an automatic buy-in. You don't have to reconvince me because I'm already subscribed and I already support. You don't have to reconvince me of the new thing, and I automatically get the latest and greatest.
Mm-hmm.
And
if you're starting a software company today, like a software startup, like you'd be crazy to not do SaaS. Like, why would you, unless your industry is so stuck in the past that you have to sell like a version of your product and do it that way? Of course, you would launch a subscription business. In fact, what's been happening with so many of the software vendors for years now is they're trying to make the transition to subscription. In fact, my old company, Thycotic, has been doing that for the last 5 years. So going from perpetual plus maintenance to subscription, and it's a real challenge for cash flow, right? Because you've got that upfront that you're getting a nice infusion from new customers. Maybe, so let's say your selling price of your solution is $50,000. Well, if you can sell a new customer, you get a check for $50,000, right? If you're selling a subscription, it's usually averaged over depending on how you go, but rough rule of thumb, maybe 3 years. So take the 50K, divide it by 3, so maybe 16,000 a year. Well, so if you're in the old model and every time you get a new customer, you get a check for 50K, in a subscription business, when you're shifting your business model, you're only getting a check for 16,000, but you're going to get it every year going forward, right?
And you can budget.
Businesses that are transitioning, it's actually quite hard because their cash flow dips. But you see in the long term, it's going to pan out. It's going to be okay because it's a recurring. You don't have to keep reselling that customer every 4 or 5 years on a new version.
I love that. I absolutely love that. What comes to mind is Netflix. Netflix got me with the new increase in price in the subscription. So is Netflix a SaaS?
Technically, it is because they provide software and it's a monthly subscription. It's B2C though, right? So it's a business selling to consumers. So that's not my personal favorite model. I prefer B2B, business selling to other businesses. It is a SaaS business, although I would challenge you and say, if they didn't have content, would you still subscribe? So no. Clearly not, right? You're not really buying the software. Whereas when I buy tax software or something like that, I'm really buying the software because that's what I want to use. And you could argue, well, it gets updated for new tax laws every year, but it's not really the same kind of content. Like maybe like Spotify too. Like I subscribe to Spotify to get an app on my phone. So yeah, it's a subscription and it's software, but I'm really not interested in the software. I'm interested in the content that they're providing. So it's a little bit of a different business model.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you for breaking that down for me because my mind was already racing. You mentioned something earlier, and we're gonna go to one more quick commercial break. You all don't go anywhere before we dive into this deep question because we want to talk about the money. We want to talk about the money portion because everybody loves money. I love money. Businesses love money. So we're gonna go to one more quick commercial break. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back, y'all.
Are you a local business looking to offer your customers easy access to cash without having to travel miles? We're here to help. At Norman Legacy Investments, we provide free ATMs with free installation that provide a suitable investment for your business. Even better, we offer you some profit sharing and handle everything from start to finish. Just reach out to us today to schedule a free consultation.
Hey everybody, this is Marcus Norman from Gentleman Style Podcast. We are back with the incredible CEO Jonathan Cogley of LogicsBoost Labs, and he just went over how LogicsBoost Labs helps small SaaS businesses and made the comparison for us of different models of businesses and the subscription model and how beneficial it is to companies and small businesses going in this field. And so this is absolutely incredible. and dynamic, and we have to stay engaged with this. I love this. So talking about the money, can LogicBoost help me get access to capital? And if so, how?
Oh, good question. So we do have connections to some angel investment networks, and we do have connections to some venture capitalists. That's usually further along the line though. So the startups that we work with are usually pre-revenue or early revenue. So either they haven't made any sales yet, or they've got just maybe 10K a year in sales, something like that. So pretty early stages. The problem with a VC or an angel investment network, if they look at that level of revenue, they're probably not going to fund you. So you need someone different. You need someone that's going to do more seed level investment. So we write checks for the startups that we take into our program, anywhere from $100,000 to $300,000 investments. That's the typical size. And usually what we do is, instead of just writing a check for say 300K, we'll do a go-to-market plan with the startup. So we kind of interview you as a startup and see if you're going to be appropriate for our program. So first off, we're looking for B2B and then SaaS startups. So it has to be a software focus and it has to be selling to businesses. We'll interview you. We'll try to understand what you're like as a founder, like how well you understand the space. Do you really understand the problems that you're solving? Oftentimes the founders that we talk to have worked as a person in that industry for a while. So let's say you're making construction software. They might have been like a foreman on a construction site for 5 years, and they've seen all the challenges, but they do some programming in their spare time, or maybe their best buddy does some programming. And so the two of them come together and figure out, hey, we know how to revolutionize the construction industry, and we're going to do this cool thing. And they've got 2 customers already. That's kind of the perfect fit. We're like, okay, you guys really understand construction. You've got the technology. You've got the smarts to be good entrepreneurs. So we interview them and qualify all those different things. And then we come up with a go-to-market plan together to say, maybe you need some marketing. So maybe you're going to need like 50K's worth of marketing. So put $50,000 on the balance sheet. You're going to need maybe a VP of sales to come in and build out your sales team. And you're going to need some technical help, maybe to proof out the MVP and really get your first product ready for market, for the bigger leagues.
So there's a strategy.
Our go-to-market plan could say maybe come out like 200K. Some of it's in cash and some of it's in services that we're going to provide to help launch that startup for maybe the first 6 to 18 months of our involvement.
I love that. So there's a plan. It's not just we're cutting you a check. We're going to plan out and strategize with this infusion of capital. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's really more of a partnership. So then we're coming in exchange for that whole plan and our execution on it. We're getting 20% ownership in the startup. And so we're fully vested, right? We care about the startup being successful, because if it doesn't, then we just wasted our money and we wasted our time.
True. That makes true. We have a question from Miss Shanika, and she has a question about, is Microsoft Office a SaaS?
So that's a good example. If you look at what Microsoft's done, if you look at, say, maybe 15, 20 years ago, you'd buy your copy of Office in Best Buy or something like that, and you take it home and you put all the disks in your computer and you load up the software, and it was, Office 95 or 97 or whatever. And every couple of years, Microsoft had to convince you to buy the new version, right? And you go back to Best Buy and buy the new one. And now you've got Office 365, which is effectively their SaaS offering, right? So they've shifted software from being something that was delivered as like an incremental every few years to now it's available. Like, what version is it? Who knows? Who cares? I just go to the website and I log in and I use the tool. So yeah, definitely Microsoft Office is a SaaS. And if you look at Office, I think, is one of the most successful components of Microsoft. They make a tremendous amount of money off their Office suite.
Absolutely. I love that. So there you go, Mr. Tremaine. I hope that question got answered. It definitely answered my question. Good pointing that out. Microsoft, I didn't even think, and I use it all the time. Microsoft and Outlook. So great question. Sir, what advice would you recommend to small businesses in the audience in order to stay afloat in this recession or this pandemic?
Oh, that's a good one. I think the key is just, listening to your customer and pivoting as needed. So we've had one of our startups, I'll give you a quick story. So one of the startups that we've been working with for a little over a year now, we started our journey with them in February of 2020. How's that for bad timing, right? Right
Oh
before
my
COVID hit.
gosh.
And so we did our investment, we did our go-to-market plan and everything with them. They're a company out of Los Angeles. They're called BarPay. And the problem that they solve is you're in a high volume bar and you can't get the bartender's attention because they're too busy and you're tired of waiting to order a drink. Why can't you just flip open your phone, pull up the menu in the bar and say, I'll have 2 beers, a glass of wine, and a shot of tequila, or whatever it might be. Press go, and a special little mat on the bar is designated for the app. And sure enough, the bartender gets the slip out of the catering printer that comes right through the app into their bar. They pull out the slip. Bartenders are really fast at making drinks. They're not very fast at taking credit cards, hearing your order in a busy bar and all that part, right? That's the slow part. And so they pour your drinks real quick. They put them on the mat and you've already checked out on your phone. You've already paid it. You've done the tip, everything. You show your order number and he gives you your drinks and off you go. Great app. I love it, right? This is why we invested. We did the go-to-market. We're going to be really successful with it. And then COVID hit. And then there are no high volume bars.
Oh.
So what do? So they're so smart. Our founders there, they looked at it. They understood their customers. They chatted to restaurant owners and bar owners that they're working with in LA. And they started to understand what the challenges with COVID were. And so they pivoted and they took their app and they said, well, why don't we make it contactless order and payment?
How does that work?
We all know QR codes, right? So they shifted, added QR codes, and then did contactless order and payment. Now you can order your drinks or order your food if you're in a small scale restaurant that's still allowed to be open. And you can do it all right on the same app.
That is mind blowing. And that's genius. And you got in on the front scale and able to, that's scary. First off, because I know plenty of bars that didn't survive the recession. So that was a huge pivot. Did you stoke that fire in that business or the business owner did it all on his own?
So the founders were just really smart. They were in tune with restaurant owners and listening to what they're looking for. And they figured out, how do we take this technology? They'd already, spent a lot of time and energy building out their platform and having something that could work. And they said, well, what does this look like in COVID world? How do we change this in a way to make it useful there? So I think the main thing that we provided was the finances. So we helped support them to do all the funding to change everything around. We provided them some advice here and there, but it was really their own steam. We're like, we just supported them. They said, can we do this? And we said, great, let's give it a try. And they went from, having a handful of customers to thousands and thousands of customers within a few months. The business has grown tremendously. And now they're branching out. They've got customers all over the US. So they're doing nicely. I mean, it could be better, right? COVID still presents a lot of challenges. So they'll sell a restaurant on their system and they're using the system. And then of course, state, regulations will come in because there's a spike and they'll shut the whole state down. So then they got to wait a couple months, let things improve. But at least their solution is helping prevent the spread because it's making things contactless.
That's true. That's true.
So just think of pivots. Think, how can you provide something that's useful? What are your customers struggling with? Is there some new way to present it? Just get creative.
Get creative and the pivot. I heard that so much throughout the pandemic. Pivot, y'all, businesses, y'all, pivot and be creative and get a lot of businesses, especially restaurants. A lot of restaurants were doing against delivery, and now they're forced to deliver in order to keep that cash flow. That was the pivot, right? For restaurants is now, how do I take my great food and get it to your door? Mm-hmm. Because you can no longer come to mine.
Yeah, crisis and change presents opportunity, right? You just have to look hard and see it, and when you see that opportunity, come up with a way to take advantage of it.
Absolutely. What is your favorite way to give back, sir?
Oh, so for me personally, I do some things in terms of charities and so on. So I used to live in Washington, D.C., and I've done got involved with some of the charities there from a financial perspective and done some funding there. But in terms of sharing my skill set, I find that mentoring startups, whether they're a key fit for LogicsBoost Labs or not, is really a great way for me to stay in touch with entrepreneurs and kind of give back to the startup community. So when I said earlier that I've mentored sort of hundreds of startups over the last couple of years, many of them have been, completely outside my comfort zone. They might be in government healthcare or something like that, which is not something I know very much about, but the fundamentals are still the same. So I'll talk to those companies, I'll share what I can, try to point them maybe to other folks that are better suited for their needs, make connections, that kind of thing. So I just enjoy chatting to folks in the startup community. Again, when I do mentoring, there's no cost. So if someone wants to just chat to me for 30 or 45 minutes, tell me a bit about your business, I'll see if I can give you some pointers on how to help. I'm always happy to do that. Just hit me up on our website and I'll see, make some time available for you. If you're a good fit for our program, great. If you're not, I'm still happy to chat to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And how can people connect with you? What are the best way to contact you and get in contact with your team to have that chat?
So right now we're looking for 2 startups to fund by the end of March. So if you go straight to our website, 2 startups by the end of this month. And we're going to be adding either 1 or 2 new startups every quarter after that. So we got to balance it because our team is not enormous. We got to make sure we have the right capacity and can give everyone the attention and focus that they need. But just go to our website. Right on the front page, you'll see there's an apply now button and apply to be part of our program. It doesn't cost anything. Just give us a little bit of information about your startup. Tell us what you're looking for, what kind of problems you're solving, and the challenges that you're facing in your startup right now. That'll get you into our system. Someone will be in touch, may well be me, and we'll set up a call. We'll talk more about your startup and we'll see if you're a good fit for the system. If you're not and you just want to chat to me, just go ahead and do the same apply as well. And we can set a time and chat.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any last words of advice, any tidbits you want to give my audience, sir?
If you're a reader, read. There's a lot of great business books out there. One of my favorites is the E-Myth. So you just do a Google search for E-Myth. That was a really pivotal book for me. So if you're a reader, I would encourage you to read that. It really helped me to think through my entrepreneurial journey as to how I should work on my business and how I should think about my business. If you're not especially a reader, I would say look for resources such as this podcast or ways in the community just to talk to other entrepreneurs, have maybe a shoulder to cry on, or a little bit of support. It's hard. It's a tough journey. People think being an entrepreneur it's kind of the cool thing to do, but it's hard. There's a lot of risk there, and it's a tremendous amount of work.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Thank you for Mr. Jonathan. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to help and give back in this way. This helped me, and I hope this has helped you all, my audience. We got to give Mr. Jonathan back. He has a company to run and more companies to take to that next level, him and his team. So Mr. Jonathan, sir, I thank you for what you're doing. I appreciate you, sir. Please don't.
Marcus, thanks so much for the opportunity today. It was great to be here.
Absolutely. And thank you all, my audience, for tuning into the Gentleman Style Podcast show. Thank you for your gracious support, and thank you all for our sponsors for sponsoring the show and subscribing. This is what allows us to develop this great episode and get special guests like Mr. Jonathan on. Like I always say, take care of your friends, take care of your families, and take care of business. This is Marcus Norman from Gentleman Style Podcast and Mr. Jonathan of LogicsBoost Labs signing off. Love you guys. Bye.